The Memphis Grizzlies have surprised quite a few people around the basketball world. Right now they're up, 2-1?
2-1.
On a team a lot of people thought would potentially win Golden State. I'm not surprised at all, to be honest.
I've been calling since the start of the year. Memphis is healthy.
Let me just start at the beginning. They were my League Pass team this year. Like, I watched a lot of Memphis basketball, and then the last 2 months of the season, Mike Conley got injured. There was a lot of just kind of, the chemistry just was not good for a while. And to see Mike Conley suddenly back, basically he had his face punched in, basically. He got screws, he got a mask, and then he had plantar fasciitis in his foot.
All at the same time.
All at the same time. And the way he's playing right now, everything just clicked this week. And when you have it rolling like that, I don't care if you're Golden State, you're not going to lose to a team like this.
No, he's the catalyst of that team, and as good as Marc Gasol and Zach Randolph are, he's the battery that gets the clock ticking, right?
Yeah.
And there was a bunch of offseason moves with that team. The emphasis on Marc Gasol over Zach Randolph as the offensive focal point, bringing in Jeff Green, and the continuity. I mean, a lot of people gave the Raptors.
Even Vince Carter has been a nice little.
Yeah, Vince Carter has been absolutely fantastic. Like almost every game I've watched, he's played well. And savvy veteran Beno Udrih as their backup point guard has stepped in and played well. I mean, it's tough to just replace Conley, but in spot minutes he plays well. And I've always said in the playoffs, when you can play half-court basketball, limit your mistakes, hit your outside shots, and dominate the paint, you're always going to have a shot.
Of course, there's first-team all-defense. Tony Allen has completely changed the atmosphere of the NBA playoffs.
He's been doing this for years. Let
me bring it back. This is a very interesting statement by, I think it was Matt Moore, who's a great Twitter guy, Hardwood Paroxysm, who said he saw Steph Curry reacting the last couple of games where he's been kind of shaking his head in frustration after play. And he says the only other time he's seen a superstar in that kind of situation against Memphis was last year, Kevin Durant, when he was guarded by Tony Allen.
And that was incredible because Durant, let's be honest, like 6'11", Tony Allen 6'4", 6'5". They gave up a lot. Tony Allen is one of the elite, if not the elite, wing defender in this league. He's been doing it for years. Now people forgot he played for the Boston Celtics. He was a key member of that defensive squad.
Trick or treat.
Exactly, and he's been this kind of unsung hero. People give a lot of credit to the aforementioned Conleys, Randolphs, Gasols, but his ability to lock down that wing. I mean, when you're playing Memphis, if you're the best offensive wing, you're in for a tough night. I don't care if you're Kobe Bryant. I don't care if you're LeBron James. He doesn't back down from anyone. And having guys like Courtney Lee, who are a nice plan B, let's be honest, and athletic guys like Green, he's got this little tough wing team going on. And he's been one of the most unsung players I've thought for a while because, the emphasis is always on offense and big scores and 3 points. And that's why a lot of, in my mind, Golden State guys get media attention on top of the record. But this is just a team kind of like the Spurs in a different way, who just understands basic basketball, understands spacing, understands everything, and gets it done in a methodical, robotic, kind of assassin-like way.
It's good you mentioned the Spurs because one of the things that Memphis has going for them is that they're one of the very few teams in the league like the Spurs that's had their core together for a good 5-6 years now. These guys know each other inside out. They got this kind of brotherly love, family atmosphere. And like you said, they know how to play their brand of basketball. I'm going to go back to the World Cup in Spain last summer where, to be honest, I found the one kind of flaw in Steph Curry's game is that he doesn't necessarily react well to this kind of rough and tumble type of basketball. Because FIBA ball, they kind of basically let everything go, and the NBA playoffs is kind of an offshoot of that. Steph and Klay Thompson himself, they're both really frustrated that they're being clawed at. Basically, like one of the methodologies that Memphis is using is that they double up on Steph, basically everywhere over the court, and stick on him, especially with the bigs. Have the bigs double up. He doesn't know what to do. He's trying to distribute. He can't shoot.
Well, this is kind of something that's interesting, right? Because you would have never heard Michael Jordan making that excuse because in his era with hand checks and everything, this type of defense was commonplace, right? So you're seeing these modern, almost softer players who are highly skilled.
Don't blame them. It's the league they kind of came into. But
of course,
Steph is adjusting.
But there are still some teams that play with that old school kind of mentality, like Memphis, who throw you off, right? You're not used to just these athletes that go back and forth point for point with you. You have guys whose jobs are just to stop you. And you know what? I don't feel bad for guys like Steph and Clay, because those are the moments you got to step up, toughen up, and make your mark. Because a true superstar, in my mind, doesn't let a bit of physicality put him on the sideline crying. He's got to come back and get tougher.
Well, I mean, another factor for Memphis that needs to be spoken about is the Grindhouse. They have one of the best fan bases in the league. It's one of those cities that's the only sport they got. The fans are insane. My mom lives there. They're just crazy for the.
It's almost strange how these small market teams, them, OKC, San Antonio, just have these
Portland.
These maddening, amazing fans. And it's always the LA teams and such that get all the credit. Another thing that's interesting is I've always been a fan of stats and ESPN writers. John Hollinger, who's I believe the director of basketball operations or something very close.
Right.
He was brought in, and he's a big analytics guy. He's a big, if you want to call it Moneyball type of guy. So I have a lot of faith in who they bring in, the contracts they sign. They're smart.
Chris Wallace.
But you know that he has John in his ear, right? It all stems down from being a good GM. There are very few teams that have sustained excellence without it coming from upper management, right? When teams panic and spend a lot of money on big players, aka the Knicks, you see the faults of it. But when you actually have teams that stay the course, say, you know what, I'm not going to overpay for you. I'm going to wait. I'm going to get this guy. People were giving up on guys like Jeff Green. People before this whole thing, 3 years ago. How are people talking about guys like Mike Conley, like Zach Randolph? People have been calling him washed up for years. In certain ways,
and people didn't realize, when Pau Gasol got traded to the Lakers, Chris Wallace was able to get Marc Gasol back in that trade. He rebuilt the franchise.
Well, at the time, it was seen as a throw-in almost, right?
I think he knew what he's talking about. He'd done a lot of. I've met Chris Wallace. He does a lot of European global scouting. So I think he knew he had a gem there. And he actually grew up in Memphis, Marc Gasol, since the age of 18 because he came down there when Pau came to play for the team. So it's his second home away from Barcelona. And I want to speak about this for a second. His contract is up at the end of this year, and I think this is kind of an interesting kind of side note. If Memphis keeps rolling as a team through the playoffs, there's no way in heck that he's going to leave this squad.
Normally, I'd agree with you. When you look at the average age of these players, they're not in their 20s. A lot of, Conley, I believe, is an 87, so he'll be 27, 28, somewhere right there. Mark is about 30, and all those guys like Allen, Randolph, they're over that. I mean, you have Jeff Green, who's 28, 29 in that world, but they're kind of a win-now age. So if they get to the finals and lose, maybe I agree with you. Or if they win, absolutely I agree with you, because I think winning changes everything. But if they lose to Golden State, right? Golden State comes back. Does Marc Gasol look at this team and be like, we've been doing this for years, and these young up-and-coming teams are just taking us? Do we not jump ship there? I think, honestly, if he gets past Golden State, even the Western Conference Finals, if he has to play and they lose there's a good chance. But I think it hinges on this. If they get past Golden State, I think he's a lock to sign. I think if not, it's 50-50.
Final question. Very simply put, can Memphis win it all?
Absolutely. I've said it from the start. I think any team that has all those mentioned qualities that I had before, and a team that, you know what, when you have one of the best big guys in the game,
two of the best
big guys who play together, this team likes each other, right? And you just have all the key positions covered. Their depth's not the best in the world, but it's sufficient. And outside of
decent coaching too.
Absolutely decent coaching. I think this team is definitely there. I don't know. I don't really see a team, to be honest, outside of Golden State, if they just berate them with 120 point a game scores, but I don't think they will. I don't know. I think they're built for the playoffs, and they're built for a ring this year, and it's going to be interesting, because if that happens, we're going to see Vince Carter with a ring. Yeah,
another small market success. I believe this too. I think the playoffs are all about chemistry, having that core together, building momentum, and like you said, trust. And you can see that. You can see that
Absolutely.
On the court. You can see Tony Allen, running around like a fool, screaming.
These guys fight for each other. Yeah. I mean, there's that kind of we're going to war mentality. Whereas, kind of we mentioned on another show, when you watch John Wall walking up this court, it seems like a little bit disconnected with the rest, right? There's a lot of talent and they're playing together, but are they going to war together, right?
Yeah,
and that's the difference.
Kind of the DeAndre Jordan Clippers
exactly
thing.
And so when you see teams like San Antonio, teams like Memphis, those guys go to war together. And I think that often when it comes to crunch time and talent is equal, that becomes a differentiating factor.
So we'll see. Like you said, maybe Vince Carter finally gets that ring.
Hope so.